welcome to No Ordinary Woman Chat Show. I'm your host, Miss Kazmak. Now guys, you know whenever you come on the show, you meet some amazing, extraordinary women who are doing fantastic things within our society. Now some of the women that do come on our show, you may or you may not know about them, but on the show, you're going to hear about their story, about what they've done to be able to be the woman who they are today, so that they can give you an insight to help you to become who God has created you to be. Now, I need you to do a couple of things. I need you to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so now. Please share. Sharing is caring. You know how it goes. Pure love around here. And I need you to watch the break and join me on the other side to meet the no ordinary woman that we have in the studio today. See you in a bit. Peace out.
All I see is you.
What's good, everybody? It's Mickey Miller, and I'm super amped to announce that I will be coming to London on May 20th, my first show in the UK.
I don't want nobody else but you. I don't see nobody else but you.
Come hang out with us. I can't wait to meet you. I can't wait to sing with you. We're gonna dance all night. We're just gonna have a really good time. May 20th at the Vortex Jazz Club. Make sure you get your tickets. They are now available on leveltickets.com. Come vibe with us.
I love it when we're cruising, cruising. Let's take the highway. We can ride all day. I love it when we're cruising, cruising.
Hey guys, thank you for staying there and thank you for locking in again to No Ordinary Woman Chat Show. Now, if you're new to this channel, I'm Kazmak and I'm the host, and we have an amazing No Ordinary Woman on the show. Now, before I introduce the woman, I'm going to give you a little introduction. Her name is Cherlene Wilson, also known as CeCie. I'm going to call her CeCie because I'm just like boasty like that. Not that I really know people, but I'm just going to try and big friend, you know. Anyway, just pray for me, whatever you do. But anyway, CeCie is a London-based personality specialist and success coach. She is also an international speaker and a published author. Now, I'm not going to elaborate anymore. I'm going to allow Miss CeCie Cherlene to take over. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing well, thank you.
How you like the intro?
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
I'm trying to tell you, I'm not as bossy as you, but I'm trying. Out of 10, what would you give me?
10 and a half.
10, oh, you know what?
Yes.
High five,
yes.
man.
10 and a half. You did good.
So, do tell our viewers, who is Cherlene Wilson? Do introduce yourself.
Yeah. So, I'm known as CeCie. Many people call me CeCie, both here in the UK and the US. I don't know, how do I explain myself? Like, I feel like I'm just so complex, you know, like there's so many different facets of who I am. Mm-hmm. It's hard to just nail it down to one. So I would call myself a transformer. Yeah. And not just in terms of transforming people's lives, but also, you know, it started with me, mm-hmm. you know, seeing God transform my life to become who I am today. Mm. And then now the very thing that I do is an extension of me being who God's called me to be through transformation.
So when you say transformation from who you used to be, could you elaborate? Who was you before this wonderful woman we see today? Yeah.
So my story starts out when I was 9 years old, in terms of where things began to kind of go downhill. At 9, I was molested by a relative. Then at 14 years old, I was attending a church and I got groomed and then subsequently raped by somebody who was quite influential in the church. Wow. Then, you know, like it just got very, 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 very serious very quickly, because what I thought was a relationship between us was actually, you know, in hindsight, it was his way to get what he wanted from me. So, you know, the day came when, because he groomed me, so he had me believe we were in a relationship. Right. And then, you know, if you get baptized, we'll get married. So there was all of these promises that was given to me, and I'm just like, boy, I must be. I mean, I'm saying it now, in in 2017's terms, but I must have been paying. Like, I must have been like for this guy who's an adult to be interested in me.
And how old was you? Sorry,
I was 14.
14, and he was making these promises to you.
And this was a time when like Jodeci, like everybody just knows like Jodeci, you know, like Love You for Life. And he would change the words to songs and sing them to me and pick me up and take me, you know, to my house and things like that, you know. So that he really knew how to use his words to get to that place in my heart where he could prime me, I guess, you know, if that's a good term. And I consented to sex with him, you know, at 14. And as soon as he finished, he got up and he looked at me and he says, if you say anything to anyone, then you're in trouble. And he walked out the door.
My God.
And for me, that was the day when I would say that I lost my voice, that I felt like my voice had no value because I tried to tell the church, they didn't listen to me. You know, I got labeled Jezebel.
So what about your parents? Did you tell your
No,
parents?
I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell them because, I mean, like 14 years old, I've had sex. Like, I'm not going to, because I didn't know that it was rape. Because he was an adult, I was a minor.
And then you see that, you know, he's making these promises to you and you're feeling like you're special and everything else. And
yeah, absolutely. And he would save me seats at church. But the weekend after it happened, I went to sit in my normal place and he was just like, sorry, somebody's sitting here. So then there was rejection. That's when rejection came into my life, you know, and where feeling invisible came into my life and just not being seen or valued, you know, even though I may not have had words for it at 14, it was still very much, that's what was going on. So it started to create this paradigm in me that I was living from, you know. I ended up leaving the church after I was labeled as Jezebel because it was my fault, right?
So that's what the church said to you?
Yeah, like because I was trying to share it.
So bear in mind, this is a adult.
Yes.
You're a minor.
Yeah.
And they're calling you Jezebel.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I ended up leaving the church and I stepped into gang life in North London. And I attempted suicide at 15 years old because I was just like so done.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, my heart was hurting. I just couldn't make sense of anything. And I took an overdose. Like I wrote a note out to my parents and said, you know, like by the time you read this, you know, I'll be gone. Please, I had a hi-fi system and a teddy bear and I'm like, please give this to Kimberly, which is my niece. That was the only thing I owned. I'm just like, I want to give this to her. And then that morning I woke up and I'll never forget it. Like I remember looking up at the ceiling and I was like, God, like, why am I still here? Like the pain of what I was going through, which I now understand as being the void. Like there was a void for love because that's what I thought this was.
That's right.
And now it's been taken away. It's just like, what do I do? You know? So what that then did was it caused me to live, you know, like from that place of, well, I need love. And the way that I got love was from sex. Right?
Because that's what you was...
Because that's what I was taught.
Yeah.
So that turned into just living promiscuously. Yeah, that's the right.
Yeah. I always have the difficulty in saying that word, trust me. But
So I was, you know, I wasn't like nobody could walk around and say, oh, she was the naughty word on the road. They couldn't call me that. But I definitely got to a place where like sex was the escape place for me, and it was also the place that I thought I encountered love and intimacy. But of course, we know it was false love and false intimacy. So, you know, I remember, and I say this to people all the time, and they're just like, oh my gosh, how could you say that? But I had sex with 2 guys in one day, and I actually liked it. Do you know what I mean? Like people be like, no, you can't say that. Like, no, I can because it's the truth. Like I'm not gonna dilute my truth because it sounds like it's just like, oh, it's a bit much. No, at that time, because of the void that I was feeling, for me, it was like, this is what I need to do in order to get what I need. You know? So having like understanding that and having compassion for myself now, it eradicates the shame. Do you see what I'm saying? Because people are like, I couldn't possibly tell anybody that because they're going to think this and this and that. Like, no.
But that's your truth.
It's my truth.
Yeah.
Why am I going to lie about it? Because there's people right now that's watching now who's living what I lived. And they need to hear that even after that, living that type of lifestyle, there's hope to be 10 years celibate as I am now.
Yes, and that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
And, you know, even listening to your story, it's just making me just like goose pimple and everything else, because I can resonate with that because, you know, I wasn't groomed or anything, but it's another, and it's not about me, it's about you, but I can understand. But what I do want to ask you in regards to now being 10 years celibate, the transformation, what happened in between then, from there to that now? What changed? You
know, so many things changed. Like I think the major turning point was when one of the guys in the gang went to jail for murder.
Right.
And that kind of like woke me up, like, whoa, I need to do something with my life. Because at that point I had left school with 1 grade because I was just about road life.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to college and I got my grades, and then I went to university to do criminology and psychology. And it was really about just how do I turn this ship? You know, from someone who had no vision for their life, who I would sleep my days away. You know, like once my mum thought I was dead because I slept for 24 hours straight, just depressed.
Yeah.
The turning point was there, and just knowing like, okay, I need to change something or this is going to turn out really, really bad. I was still very much sexually involved. I had my friend with benefits, you know, I used to call him my serviceman, you know. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's not, because, you know, I was using somebody, I was manipulating someone. The very thing that happened to me, even though we were consenting adults, I was using him to get what I wanted.
But do you think that is because obviously what you went through is like, you know, sometimes sometimes you hear about people who do commit crime.
Yeah.
And if they've seen somebody else doing it or their parent doing it, then you start doing it. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So would you say that is the reason why, obviously, you know, you had that kind of habit? That's why you was then using this serviceman, so we called it at the time.
To be really honest, like I only had that revelation that I was using this guy as how, and I'm going to start crying now because it was really, really recent. Like it was July 1st. Like July 1st was the day when I started recording my, it's called the Purity Talks podcast.
Yeah.
And while we were doing the, myself and the producer, like we were just trying to just kind of filter through and just get through this podcast, this episode, I realized like, oh my gosh, the very thing that happened, what happened to me, I was doing to this service guy. I was manipulating him and using his body to get gratification. And this is just very, very, very fresh, very, very recent. And I do remember making a decision like when we were sleeping together, like I have to stop this because this is God's child, whether he believes in God or not.
That's right.
This is someone who's not mine, you know, like I'm not married to him. And here I am just manipulating his emotions to get what I want. And even though we had an agreement, it was still wrong. Do you know what I mean? And mind you, all this time I'm in church. Like let's not get it twisted. All this time.
So you came back from being in a gang and then going back into church.
Yeah. So I was always kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because I've always loved God. Like from 8 years old, that's my earliest memory. But then, so there was a gap where when I was involved in all the gang crime and all that kind of stuff, where I just took my time out. But I went back in 1999. So from 99 to now, I've been in church, on and off, kind of. That's another bit. We'll come to that. But in the middle of this, I was still very much in church. But for me, it was like, no, there's this void and I need it met. So I'm going to be bad girl and I'm going to get what I want because I can get what I want. It was that attitude, but I was very cold and I was very hard. And I was almost emotionless because I was still hurting. Yeah. The pain was still there. And I'm like, well, I'll just use this person then to just get what I want because I need it, you know? So it was a very distorted view of the distortion of sex from early age, childhood, was now brought into my adulthood. Right. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just very distorted view of what sex was really about.
Because it's like it's become like your nature. To
Yeah,
to a point,
absolutely,
you know?
absolutely.
So, with that being said, because like obviously we're going to have viewers that may, you know, can resonate to what you're saying, but what would you say to an individual? Because obviously you deal with transformation, you help young people, you mentor and, you know, women, etc. But what would you say to that person that may be challenged in terms of they are having these sexual relationships with somebody that is not their husband, have no business in sleeping with, but they don't even know how to stop it themselves, you know, and they also may be in a church as well. What would you say to that person, if you don't mind speaking to the camera, just to encourage them?
I think, you know, like you have to get to a point where you now decide like, okay, like why am I choosing to continue to violate my soul? Because it's essentially that's what's happening. There's a violation of the soul. what changed the game completely for me when I made a decision, like I have to stop doing this, is when I had this thought process, and my thought process said that, like, me having sex, the more and more and more I have sex with someone, is the further and further and further I'm pushing my husband away. And I really there was this conviction in my heart, like, the more I did this is the further that he got. And in that, for me, I'm just like, but that's the deepest desire of my heart. The deepest desire of my heart is to get married. Like, that's the deepest one. You know, like, I want to, you know, be in a, you know, covenant relationship where it's just ride or die. We're doing things for the kingdom, for God. And it's love in its purest form, because I've not known that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So the game changer for me was when I realized, like, well, if I'm going to be a gift to my husband, there's things in my life that I need to change now.
Yes.
Because if I don't change those things, then I'm just setting a platform for him to just come into a whole load of mess. And who's to say that he would even be able to find me with all of the soul ties?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, it's you have to look at your why. Like, why are you choosing to live the life that you're living if you are sexually active? And what could your life look like if you were to change that? How would you feel as a woman? How would you feel as a guy? How would you value yourself? Like, how much would your value go up if you stop that? You know, it could be very much an addiction. It was an addiction for me. But what changed that was just looking at the bigger picture. Because I say this, and this is very, very interesting. I had this revelation one day, and the revelation said, we hear in church the notion about breaking soul ties.
Breaking bondage.
We hear in the church about breaking generational curses. But there is not, I have never, ever, ever in my life heard it preached about how those curses were created in order for them to be broken.
That's good.
So then the question became, is it possible that there's things that I'm doing in my life today or last week or next week that, you know, things that I do, is it possible that I'm creating curses for the generations that come from me to then break? It has to start somewhere. And I started to think about that, and I'm like, if promiscuity is my thing, and it's the thing that I'm battling with the most, and I have not drawn a line in the sand, my children are going to deal with this thing.
Yeah.
They are. So in as much as I don't have children yet, in as much as I don't have a husband yet, honor for them and respect for them doesn't start when they're here.
It starts now.
It starts now.
That's right.
And it's me setting the stage spiritually and me setting the stage psychologically. So when they come, this is not something that they need to deal with. And I'm very, very, very passionate about that, because I'm just not hearing it being spoken about.
And that's where the Purity Talk, your podcast, comes in, because I was listening to one of your podcasts on Facebook, the Facebook Live one.
Yeah.
And what I love about you, I know I thought it was hilarious, but the thing is, as much as you laugh, I love the authentic side of it, that,
Thank
you know,
you.
you're real, you have people who are real, that ask them real questions, you know, because as a woman, as a man, we have urges.
Simply.
You know, and naturally, that is natural. But then when you're a Christian and you're trying to remain celibate until you get married, etc., how do you deal with those things? And, you know, share your social media platforms so that our viewers can actually connect with you, because, you know, they're going to need these guidance as well. Yeah, please.
So social media is really, really easy. I mean, if you see my name, it's Cherlene Wilson, and it's on every single platform. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, every platform possible. Is literally just my first name and my last name, and my website is CerleneWilson.com. So you can find me there. The one is associated with speaking about purity is called Purity Talks, with Cherlene Wilson on Facebook. And you can also go on to all of the audio outlets for the Purity podcast as well, Purity Talks podcast. You can find it on iTunes, Google, everything, iHeartRadio, it's there.
So, Cherlene, back to my question in regards to how do one deal with those urges? Because, you know, it's natural. God created sex, you know, let's not get it twisted. That's how me and you's hair. You understand what I'm saying? And our mother and father and everybody else. You know, but how do we deal with those urges? What would you advise somebody? I mean, what advice can you give me? Because I have urges.
Listen, I think when it comes this topic, I'm so passionate about this topic because in church, as far as I've seen the message, it's always through a vehicle of fear. Run the opposite direction, like if your flesh is burning, you need, all of these different types of things. Not to say that scripture is wrong because it's coming from scriptural references. But for me, I'm like, but no, what's the practicality of that? Like, how do I practically live a pure and celibate lifestyle? Now, my thing is, if I'm working with somebody, for example, in, I don't know, corporate environment, and the man hot, right? And my bits and bobs are twitching over this guy.
Come on now.
Right?
That's real talk.
Which is real.
That's right.
Like, if I'm twitching over this guy and he's attracted to me, what's going to stop me from doing, like, what is going to stop me from being in some, broom cupboard with this guy? Regardless of my faith. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, how do we practically manage our sexuality? And when it comes to urges, one of the things that I just think is just so amazing and which has helped my life majorly is what's called sex transmutation. And sex transmutation is where we take the energy, the emotion of sex, and we transmute it into something else.
Right.
So knowing like, okay, I'm on heat now.
Yeah, go to the gym, go for a
Go
run.
to the gym. I go salsa. I'm just wind up, but I'm cool. I go salsa. I would transmute that energy into something. But there are so many components, and what I call and what I work with people on is their purity plan. Like, do you understand what your triggers are?
Yeah.
Like, what triggers you? Is it music? Is it food? Is it touch? Is it
even movies as well?
Movies? Is it scent?
Yeah.
What things trigger you? Do you understand what your cycles are? Is it a particular time of year that you start, like, you feel like you're on heat more than ever? Usually around winter when everybody want warm blanket, live blanket. That's when people are about that life. Like, what are your red flags? Like, what are the flags that you're ignoring that are telling you, hey, if you don't fix this thing right here, you're going to end up wrapped up in a bed with Felipe. Like, you don't want that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Listen.
You don't want that. But the challenge that I have, and this is why I'm doing Purity Talks, and Purity Talks is a movement that serves as a global platform to normalize the narrative of sex in the Christian community and the church, because we're not speaking about it enough. We're not talking about, well, is masturbation right or wrong? We're not talking about, well, like simple things like women, if your periods come in, you're most likely going to be on heat.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're not in no funny type of situation. Yeah. And it's very simple, practical things that can be done that will stop you from violating your soul. Simple things. Now, I'm not saying for a second that the Bible is not relevant. What I am saying and what I do is I bring my life experience plus my coaching profession, and I create something to help people walk effectively in purity.
So do you actually coach individuals who may be challenged in those areas?
Yeah,
wow,
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. So I do one-to-one, but then I also do group coaching. So if there's, say, a bunch of friends, for example, because sometimes it can get a bit challenging if there's a whole bunch of people in the church, and then do you know what I mean, they don't want next person to know their business. So typically, if there's a group of like young ladies who are friends and they want to work through their stuff together because they're friends, do you know what I mean? There's no shame there. There's no, well, at least there shouldn't be.
It should be as open as possible.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then also there's Purity Talks Live with Cherlene Wilson, which is like actually on location events.
Okay.
So where, sitting down and having these conversations and just discussing things and just to normalize this narrative that, you know what, I'm on heat. Okay, cool. It doesn't mean that I now need to go and jump someone's bones.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. But you've touched about, I'm going to bring it up, sorry.
Yeah, do it.
I'm sure somebody's going to be just saying, thank you, she did it for us. Masturbation.
Yeah.
What is your take on it?
Listen, this is probably the most greyest area, like the most greyest area. One, because it's actually not mentioned in the Bible as being something that's wrong. And there's two schools of thought. There's the don't do it because you're sinning against yourself and against God. And then you've got the other school of thought is that if you can do it without lusting after somebody, then it's fine.
How do you do it and not lust? I mean...
So this is what I've seen two schools of thought, one from the traditional church and one from the more, I don't want to say liberal church because they're not liberal, but they've said, why are people shouting about something that God's whispering about? Because it's not in the Bible as being wrong. So when I'm on stages, I just give them, these are the two schools
Right.
of thoughts. It's between you and God.
Yeah.
Because I can't stand on a stage with conviction and say to somebody, don't do it because the Bible says, because it's not there. And I can't say, well, you know what, if you can do it without your imagination lusting after someone, then go ahead. Like, I just can't do that. So I just stay right in the middle and be like, these are the two schools of thoughts. This is between you and God.
Because it's interesting you saying that. The reason why I say that is because I do listen to a lot of different podcasts for various different Christian women as well, and they do say, you know, why you got me masturbating? That's a sin, and this, that, and the other. But one of the things I will say is, which I think is quite, as you were speaking, it came to me. You see young children masturbating from a very young age. They haven't seen anything, you know, pornography or anything like that. It's just a natural thing, you know, touching your body and they're masturbating. So what then do you say to that?
It's a challenging topic. It's a challenging area, and I'm still doing research on that because it's like, it's hard to answer with, for me, it's hard to answer with conviction because there's nothing in the Bible that says it's wrong. Now, but what I will say is this, and this is where I feel like perhaps the act itself isn't a sin against the soul, but the consequences of it could be. And what I mean by that is this. Recently, I discovered something called porn-induced erectile dysfunction, where this is very, very good. So porn-induced erectile dysfunction is when a man can only be aroused by watching porn.
Right.
Then you have clitoral sensitivity disorder, which is where a woman who stimulates herself, she can only be aroused by herself. Now imagine this. You've got Mr. Celibate, you've got Felipe over here, celibate, but he's addicted to porn.
Right.
Then you've got Miss Felicia over here, and she's addicted to arousing herself. Now, and they're both celibate, single people. Now imagine they meet each other, they get married. What's going to happen in the marriage?
Well, you're going to have both going on inside the marriage, aren't you? He deals with porn, she deals with satisfying herself.
The deeper levels of intimacy that we are supposed to experience as Christians, it's not going to happen. If that's something that we're exposing ourselves to in our singleness, even in marriage. Because what's happening when a man's watching porn and it becomes an addiction is actually changing the neurological pathways in his brain. So he can physically, he's unable to be aroused by his wife or by a woman, by any female standing in front of him. She could be dead on top of him. Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, because it's what he's been dealing with, and that's
exactly
transformed his brain.
It's transformed his brain. So what I will say is consequences to actions is a problem. Because what, do you think I'm waiting 10 years to now then be with a man that's got porn-induced erectile dysfunction? I'm going to be traumatized because I love sex. Do you know what I mean? And if I cannot arouse my husband, not because I'm not hot, but it's because of what he's been doing in his singleness, that's a problem for the relationship. And if I'm somebody who's stimulating myself and then he can't arouse me, what is that doing to his self-esteem? And the fact that this man has gone through his journey to get to the place where he's asked me to be his wife, and then here I am, I haven't even been maintaining myself to be a good and perfect gift to the man. So these are the kind of things that we talk about with Purity Talks. It's just good. Opening it up and
I love that. And what I do love about what you're doing, even though your main target audience, I would imagine, is Christians, but I do also think this is not just for people who are Christians, it's for everybody. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because there is an issue within our society where you know, young boys, young girls, they don't have no boundaries, they don't have no love for themselves. Do you understand what I'm saying? And there's no values. And the honest truth is, if you've got parents who do not have no values for themselves, how are they going to teach that child to have value for themselves? And even going back to, you know, what happened to you, you know, from your tender age of being 14 upwards, you know, even with that chap, what he'd done, yes, it was wrong. But what did he go through as well? Because sometimes you have to look at what is the reason why that person is also doing what they're doing as well. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying that you disregard it, but you have to. We have to become quite open-minded. Because, like you said, with the guy that you know was the guy that you would just call up when you want to get service. He's a child of God too. We're all a child of God. You understand what I'm saying? But
can I just say, like, I actually asked the man that abused me. I asked him. December 2nd, I had a meeting with him. I sat him down And I said, I need to tell you how your behavior has affected my life for the last 22 years. And I'm going to tell you year by year. For me, it was the most beautiful story of redemption. I had already forgiven him 10 years prior, but it was a beautiful, it showed me what forgiveness in action looked like, because there was no animosity, no bitterness, no hatred, no anger. There was nothing. I literally had to bite my tongue from coaching him and drilling down to find out how I could help him become a whole person. But I think that's just a whole another story.
Yeah, but I think, you know, maybe we need to do part two.
Yeah.
I think we need to do part two, because
Okay.
there's so much more about Cherlene Wilson that even our viewers, I'm sure they're going to be, I know, I'm not even sure, I know that they are going to be blessed by you, because you are an amazing woman. You are doing amazing things within our society. And even with Purity Talk, I just think, well done on you, because that's something that's definitely needed right now, especially for myself, being a single woman, being celibate as well for 7 years. And what I do love, because you got your purity ring on, I just love that. So even though we got to wrap up, but if you don't mind sharing about your purity ring, the journey to getting a ring.
Yeah. This for me, on the 10th of July, it was 10 years of being celibate. And I don't even know why I'm so emotional about this, but it was 10 years of just challenge after challenge after challenge, and just really fighting for my purity. You know, I was sexually assaulted by a guy where I could have easily slept with him if I wanted to, but I said no, because the vision for me was like, if I do that, like, I'm violating my soul, and what environment am I setting up for my husband, you know? And the morning of the 10th of July, I said, I need to go and buy a ring. And when I put it on, like, I don't know how to explain it, but this power just came, and this sense of authority and sense of redemption, because 10's the number of redemption. And it was the 10th year, and it was the 10th day of the month. Do you know what I mean? And 7's the number of completion. So it was like God was really speaking to me, and I've worn it every day since. Like, it was so bizarre. Like the morning after I bought it, like, I took it off in the nighttime, and I woke up and I was like, where's my ring? It was just like it became a part of me. And I really do feel like, you know, like this ring won't come off. The only time this ring will come off when it's exchanged for an engagement ring.
Amen.
And I feel like it's just a part of being consecrated unto God, you know.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
I do like that, because I remember even another speaker, Heather Lindsay, she speaks about having a purity ring as well, and similar to what you're saying. And I think that's amazing. I'm not saying that everyone can go out there and go and buy a purity ring, because obviously you have to go how you feel led to do. But I think that's amazing. But what have you had people like knocking you, getting a purity ring and things like that?
Yeah.
How did you, I mean, how do you deal with that, if you don't mind me sharing?
It's not their business, because for me it's just like I know what my relationship is like with Papa. Like, I know that I hear God, you know, I feel him. He speaks to me daily, you know, and I followed my spirit when I went to buy it. You know, the concern that people have is like, oh, well, if you've got a ring on, how is, you know, if there's a guy who's single, how is he going to know that you're available? And my thing is, if he's the man of God for me, he will know. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's something that he will discern in his spirit. And if there's enough intrigue, like, oh, I need to get to know this woman, let me find out if she's single or married, then that's what, like, this is kind of like separating, because I can't just, and how do I say this in the most honoring way? I know what I've had to steward. I know what soul ties I've had to break. I know what mindsets I've had to shift. I've known the tears and the loneliness and the God, like, have you forgiven me for the things that I've done? Like, am I ever going to be married? Like, I know what I've fought for, but the vision is set before me. So for all the things that I've stewarded, the 5 years at ministry school of just taking time out to get to know who I am, like, all of these things make up who I am.
Yeah.
And when I give me to someone, like, it's something of value.
Yes.
For real.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just gonna say, I could have been married a long time.
Yeah.
The amount, I mean, sometimes I've got men offering me babies. Like, real talk. Like, even like last week, I had a guy asking me, you know, if he can give me twins. I said, I don't want your sperm, sir. I'm good.
Jeez.
Do you know what I mean? And people will offer me because it's just like, because they think I'm amazing, which I am, you know.
Of
you
course,
know,
take it.
But
God made
the
you that
point,
way.
exactly. But the point is that I've set myself aside for someone who has set himself aside for me. And I trust God enough that when the time is right, our paths will cross, and it's a done deal. Power couple, isn't it? So
That's it. And we need power couples in the kingdom, y'all. But we
Yes.
also got to take in consideration
Yeah.
there are men and women that do not have the same belief values as you do.
Yeah.
And they're going to look at it and think, well, sex is great, it's
It is.
it's awesome, and
It really is.
I ain't gonna
Yeah.
not have that pleasure because of beliefs and religion and everything else. But I think for me personally, I don't know about for you, but I think if you take away the beliefs, you take away religion and everything else, but if you visualize yourself sleeping with this person, you be in a relationship with that person, and you break up with this person, and you don't even know how many person that person slept with, and then you don't even know the amount of people that you slept with. It's so many like mix up.
Yeah. It's
You
a
know,
lot.
it's like you just feel like you just get dragged down a road, and you're just passing through. Everybody's passed through you.
Yeah.
Then by the time you come to your husband, your wife,
It's a lot.
it's just.
And I think.
What's your views on that?
I feel again like I feel really emotional about this bit because I know what that bondage feels like. Like I know I know I shouldn't be doing this or I don't want to do this, but the need is so great. The physical need is so great. And it's almost like you're willing to sacrifice your conscience to get the need met. Like fully well knowing at the same time that your spirit is just saying like, why are you doing this to me? And we have to ask ourselves like how long we're going to continue to do it, because we're powerful enough to stop.
Yeah.
And we're powerful enough to acknowledge like, okay, like I'm better than this.
Yeah.
And I am a queen, I am a king. And right now with this, sleeping around or what have you, like this is not my identity. It's not who I am. And I feel like people who are challenged, people who don't have value for it, like I just challenge them to just stop for a year and see how different you feel. Like I've never in my whole entire life felt as whole as I do now, where I don't feel fragmented anymore, where I don't have anxiety, like I feel in complete peace, like I'm not thinking about this person over that person, or I'm not fragmented. Parts of my soul are not in other people. Like I'm whole, and I think it's in that wholeness that's where the power is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to have to wrap up. I want to just thank you so much, Cherlene. We definitely want to have you back on the show for part 2, because you are an amazing woman.
Thank
and
you.
we even touch on all the other areas that you deal with. But, guys, feel free to connect with Cherlene. Go on Google, Cherlene.Wilson. Cherlene Wilson. Sorry, my apologies, CeRleneWilson.com. Just go online and just check her out, and do connect. Go into, when she's doing her Facebook Live. Do you do Facebook?
Yeah,
What
so
days
I
are
do.
that on?
I don't have scheduled days at the moment, but as long as if you go to my website, all the information is there. It will take you through to all the social media platforms and things like that.
And you can always watch the show again, so you don't have to tune in very, very live. So until next time, we love you, Cherlene loves you, I love you, God loves you, everybody loves you, and see you next time on No Ordinary Woman Chat Show. Peace out, bye.
You are the key. It's only natural.